This practice of updating books is not actually new.
So modernization is the practice of updating pop culture and tech references in books. The Pretty Little Liars example
is
they did it badly. They refer to like Billie Eilish as a band. The point really is to keep people reading.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there are a lot of people who are against it for like also very, very good reasons.
In publishing, modernization means going through the text of old books and looking for outdated references and replacing it with more up-to-date references like TikTok. Writer Angelina Mazza reported on this phenomenon for the New York Times, and she joined me in the studio to talk about how it works, but also what we lose when we add TikTok. According to a piece that Angelina wrote for the New York Times, publishers are updating beloved YA novels with modern references to pop stars and social media in order to stay relevant. And so let's start with the tweet that started it all, but it specifically kicked off your curiosity.
Yeah.
It is a picture of someone's Kindle, and they are reading Pretty Little Liars, which was originally published in 2006. They are 5 pages in, and there is a sentence that originally is supposed to read, "Do you guys want to come over and watch Fear Factor? This guy is doing this challenge where he eats bugs." But instead, what we can see on this person's Kindle is, "You guys want to come over and watch this cool TikTok I found? This guy's doing a challenge where he eats bugs." So they've updated it to include a reference to TikTok and also done it badly.
Because
badly. I don't know if there's a world in which I would...
Would you not come over to my house to watch a single TikTok?
A single TikTok.
Wow.
I know, like, the idea of coming over to someone's house to watch a TikTok, I guess, on their phone already.
I love that. It's like implied. It's like it's got to be on my phone.
Yeah.
I guess it could be on the other person's phone.
I know, but it's like, but I gotta watch you watch it.
Maybe it's on the TV. Maybe
right,
you're like
you're
airplane.
Chromecasting. Yeah. And so it doesn't make sense, and it's very clear that it was just like a search and replace thing that happened, and they just were like, "Oh, we'll just put TikTok in. The challenge can stay eating bugs," which I think is great. They were like, "Actually, that still works."
I'm sure someone is doing it.
Oh yeah, the bug eating challenge. Yeah. Well, this inspired you to dig deeper for a piece that you ultimately wrote for the New York Times. And I guess what may be surprising to people, at least it was surprising to me, is that this practice of updating books is not actually new, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, so modernization is the practice of updating like pop culture and tech references in books. And it happens mostly with like books that are aimed at younger readers. So like young adult titles, middle grade titles. But it's also happened with like romance.
Mm-hmm.
The new show that's the straight hockey show off campus.
This is almost what I made you talk about up front, but then I thought you'd get too angry.
That's very funny. But Off Campus, which is based on The Deal by L. Kennedy, they modernized that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new edition where all the references to like watching a DVD of Breaking Bad, like it's been replaced to streaming Ted Lasso.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's quite odd, and I really don't understand why they did that. But for younger readers, or like the goal of this practice, according to like everyone I spoke to, is to make sure that it's to appeal to like a new generation of readers.
Yeah.
So the idea is that for middle grade readers, you're worried that like about reading comprehension. You're like, oh, we want to make sure that like a word isn't going to confuse them or a reference isn't going to confuse them, and that they'll stop reading. Like the goal's not very like it's not nefarious. It's not like
right.
It's like what I do feel like I've been thinking about a lot since reading like the many comments that people are having online is I do think in most cases it like people go into it with like this idea that like it's a nice idea. You want people to keep reading books, and you're like, how can I keep making that happen? And I think in most cases people are quite like careful about the process. The Pretty Little Liars example
is
a real like they did it badly. They refer to like Billie Eilish as a band in the same like I don't know how they did that one, but like it was really careless. But yeah, the point really is to keep people reading. At the same time, there are a lot of people who are against it for like also very, very good reasons.
From looking at your piece and just like researching, it seems like the reasons or the ways that books can get updated, there's kind of three general categories. The first one, I've ranked them in how much I dislike them.
Okay, good.
But this isn't, I think this first one's good, is what I want to be clear, because this is the cultural sensitivity one. So my dislike of this one's 0. So like an example would be, and again, it's a lot of it is, in this case, is Roald Dahl is a children's book. He had these offensive descriptions of characters' physical appearances, anti-Semitic references. So they went through and said, you know what, let's get rid of those. But then in like the James Bond books, Ian Fleming, they had to eliminate racism and sexism. And I'm laughing because I pulled out this example.
Because you think those things are funny.
Because I think those things are funny. Because this example of what they changed is so funny to me. Where Bond visits a nightclub in Harlem, and a reference to the audience panting and grunting like pigs at the trough has been changed to Bond could sense the electric tension in the room. It's just the like,
so funny.
It's almost like a PR person came in and was like, what he meant by that was obviously the electric tension in the room.
Wow.
Really crazy. And then Agatha Christie is one of the more recent ones, cutting references to ethnicity. And the way they were describing that one was like they were cutting the references in the way that like your boomer grandparent for some reason has to say the ethnicity of a person in a story, even when it's not at all relevant to it.
Yeah.
Like that seemed to, it was a little bit like, because she was using outdated words to describe them, and it was not it just seemed to be like just mostly offensive because the terms were dated and not needed. So that's kind of the first one. Then there's misinformation, which I'm like neutral on, but I think there's a good example of this is, well, generally why you would do this is often young readers are learning about the world through books, and in some cases the books are the first time they learn about something like their periods and how, like sanitary products work, and you don't want them reading that and getting outdated information. And so this leads us into you emailing with Judy Blume. Please talk about that.
My initial like gut feeling when I first looked into this was like, oh my God, why are they doing this? But the thing that I think made me a little more like, I don't know, sympathetic to the idea of making these changes were the conversations I had where people like would like mention a change that I didn't have that same like gut like knee-jerk reaction to. And so one of them was the Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which was originally published in the 70s. And in the 90s, Bloom told me that her UK publisher was like, hey, what if we updated the period tech from, it used to be like a period belt that like Margaret was going to go buy and pick out like the color of it or whatever, and what if we updated it to like what people use, which is like sticky pads, because those were invented right after the book was published, from what I understand. And she was like, yeah, sounds good. And like her US publisher also agreed it was a good idea. And I spoke with a lot of people who had really conflicting feelings about this. Like some people were like, yeah, like that was really confusing to me. And like Bloom's project is to kind of be educational. Yeah. And so making this kind of change is in line with that, with the purpose of this book. Yeah. But then there are other people who are like, that's a part of our history. Like we shouldn't erase that. Like that's literally a part of like the history of like puberty and like the history of like the world, and like I found that really, really compelling. But I think that that's actually the best example of like why I was like, oh, maybe I do see the point here, is when I spoke to David Levithan, who's the like director at Scholastic, which publishes the Babysitter Club books. And in those books, they're constantly updating the information around Stacy's diabetes.
Oh,
So you're like, he was just like, we don't want to give kids like medical misinformation. And like, that to me was like the most, I think that example actually, like, more than the Judy Blume example, was the one where I had like the least of a like, why are you doing this to books? Where I was like, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense. But then again, there is always like that small part of me that like also really does feel like why we shouldn't touch these like historical records.
Yeah, you're saying something very profound. Unfortunately, my next question is, did Judy Blume have a fun email signature?
No. I'm so sorry.
Not even like sent from my phone?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, she should. But also,
I'm so sorry.
Actually, no, it is in line with a sort of the opposite version, which is someone who like cares so little about their email correspondence that they're just like kind of firing it off, and they don't have anything. But, like, it would be funny if she had like her credentials down there. It'd be like, we actually don't need those.
No, we actually don't need those. I will say that it was really surreal to get an email from her, because I was like reading the words and I was like, oh my goodness, like these words are so special, and they were really funny. Like a change that she made, that she it was her choice, but she just like she said that she wouldn't do it again now if she had to. She stands fully by the Margaret change, but she also updated her Fudge books. She updated all the technology. The Fudge books, like, that's a series, and the amount of time that passed between like all the books in the series, like, technology was changing a lot. Probably not as fast as right now, but enough of a it was significant enough that she was like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna change things. And she was like, it was so complicated, like, I wouldn't do it now. Like, her words were, I got myself in a tizzy about it.
Perfect.
I know.
Yeah. Well, that's a good ramp to the sort of third and my least favorite sort of category of these changes, which is updating the references to be more modern / neutralizing them to be this term time agnostic, which is basically what it sounds like. It's that changing the wording so that there's nothing that dates it. And I know an example you gave is like, rather than like play the cassette, it would just be like turn on, like, play the song or whatever. So it could be whatever technology. But this updating the references to be more modern, that is what happened with Pretty Little Liars, which was a pretty clumsy version. So there was the TikTok, there was Billie Eilish, the band. I think Doja Cat
also was referred to as a band.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Are there any other, you mentioned the Judy Blume, are there any other sort of big examples of making it more modern?
So yeah, I spoke to the author of the Alex Rider series, Anthony Horowitz, and he was very, like, remarkably relaxed about the idea of like changing books. Like, he was like, every few years my publisher and I would like go through it, kind of go through anything we thought that like would date the book, because in those books a lot of the technology actually, like, so these are like teen spy novels. It's like James Bond for kids.
Yes, without the racism and the weird, that already got removed. Yeah.
But like Alex's gadgets become like weapons.
Yeah.
So he was like, I like, in the first book, Alex had like a cell phone with like a really long antenna, and he could like shoot laser beams. And he was like, okay, well, like, we got to get rid of that. Or there was like a compact disc.
Where did the laser beams come from then? If they got rid of it,
I don't know. I haven't read the updated version of here.
Am I expected to believe the laser beam is coming from the iPhone? Like,
I don't know. Maybe.
Anyways, continue. I'm just pissed off about this.
Kate Lindsay wants her laser beams back.
I want them. Yeah, it's just like that tool becomes immediately less fun if you're not like just visually to even picture. I'm just like, whatever. Yeah, keep going. I'm pissed. I'm looking off in the distance.
I personally don't think, in the case of these specific books, the changes that I have seen haven't been like, I do have that kind of knee-jerk reaction that I didn't have with the whole like diabetes thing. Another one he mentioned was like a compact disc that became like, a circular saw.
Okay.
And the way he talked about it was like, I like had no issue with like taking these references out, because it was like taking them out was stopping these like old-fashioned things from spoiling the read.
The thing, this is what pisses me off.
No,
because,
tell me.
Because it's like, okay, we're getting rid of the antenna on the cell phone because and so that's gone. And then we're also getting rid of the CD as a saw. And so both of those things are now obsolete because of the same thing, which is an iPhone. And then it becomes much less interesting to me to be like, this iPhone, it shoots lasers and it's a saw. It's like, great. I don't know. It's a little bit like...
Future iPhones are going to do that.
I know. And
I think we're giving Apple ideas right now.
cut up these books because I'm so mad. But anyways, that's just one taste of why I don't like it, because it's like, oh, it's an iPhone. Everything is now iPhone. And so it's like an iPhone that does everything, which is immediately less interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right.
Also, like, the example actually that I brought into the piece wasn't even like a gadget. It was it's really early on in the first book. He's like grieving and he's like doing something to distract himself. And in the original version, he's like playing snooker.
Oh, snooker.
Snooker?
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, I actually don't know what snooker is, but
it's pool. It's yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's British pool.
British pool, right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Likely thing for you to know.
I know. It's really a crossing of the whitest borders between us of England and Canada.
And he changes it to Alex playing a PlayStation. And to me, like, I was like very because I don't know. I feel like that doesn't actually doesn't really change much. Like a kid who's like, what is snooker? Like, yeah. They would ask someone.
Right, then they'd get a dictionary and learn a new word.
Yeah, that's what I definitely did. That's what a lot of people that I spoke to who were against this were like, I don't, like, it never stopped me. I, like, learned things. And also something that, like, one of the scholars that I spoke to was like, who isn't reading with, like, a phone in their hand anyway? Like, Googling things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happened with the Alex Rider books. Then again, like, he was also, like, like I said earlier, he was very much just, like, it brings me, like, joy to know that, like, a kid can pick up my book and feel like it was written for them. I just maybe think that the premise here, that, like, something was, like, written for you because it has, like, pop culture.
Because it has the band Doja Cat.
Because it has the band Doja Cat. Like, I don't know. I kind of find that premise a little strange.
Yeah. And also, one of the things that I was wondering if you got any clarity on, of, like, how much do they have a set amount of time that needs to elapse before they look over these books for review? Like, how frequently are we updating them, especially because things do move so much faster? Like, a book from 5 years ago is going to be dated.
I mean, a book from literally 1 year ago is going to be dated. That's why usually agents tell, like, their clients not to include references to pop culture broadly. It's, like, kind of like a common thing that authors are told, like, don't include stuff or try not... like, unless you're, like, writing something that, like, it's core to that character, I guess. Yeah, they're discouraged because things are moving so quickly. And, like, if you are writing a book now, it'll only come out in, like, probably a year or 2 years. But, yeah, so the timeline around modernization, from what I understand, is very much, like, time to anniversaries. It'll happen, like, maybe every decade, sometimes every 5 years if, like, there's a TV show that, like, tie in. So the Pretty Little Liars reprint, that was tied to Original Sin, which was, like, the spinoff that got canceled. But, yeah, so, like, or sometimes it'll be like, oh, we're reprinting it, like, as a collector's edition. The point is that it's not really something that happens on its own, but, it's part of, like, a broader repackaging. So the first thing that happens is they'll be like, okay, we're, like, going to refresh the covers. We're going to, like, remind people these books exist, that they're fun. We're going to introduce them to a new generation. And when they do that, they're like, well, we could also, like, do an interior update. Let's, like, talk about this. Let's, like, go through it. And so one agent I spoke to who used to be an editor at HarperCollins, and she worked on the Pretty Little Liars books, but not on the updates. But the updates she did work on, so her name is Carrie Sutherland, and the updates she did work on were The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, which is, like, for me, that was truly shocking because I grew up on those. And for those, she would go through every couple, she would go through for that at that time, and, like, highlight every pop culture tech reference, like, celebrity reference, and if there was something, like if that person wasn't popular anymore, or if there was like even some scandal around it, which, you know, that kind of gets tricky because it sort of goes into the first category you mentioned.
Yeah.
Then they would come up with like a list of possible substitutes and run it by the author, and then pick one like that. And so that, though it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's hard to say whether it actually like does anything because it's part of this broader repackaging.
Yeah. So I imagine it is hard to tell if the updating, the modernization, like, is there a way to know if that is contributing in any meaningful way? Like, is there data that this is helpful? Like, they're doing this and this is standard practice, but like, has there been anything to show like, yes, this is necessary?
From the reporting I did and the research I did, I have not come across that. I think for two reasons. One, because it's part of like this broader thing, people are like, you can't really say like, well, this one thing is why people are picking up books more. I mean, David Levithan is like, he really believes that the fact that he's made these books time agnostic is what prevents them from feeling like, oh, like I'm buying the book that like my mom read. Like, yeah. And he really does think that it really influences that. But no one else that I spoke to seems to be of that opinion. Like, even people who were pro modernization or more more for it, I guess. Like, no one else was like, yeah, like I really think it is for sure the reason why these books like will like keep selling. And I think probably the reason why there isn't like a lot of data is because they don't advertise it. Like, a lot of people didn't know. Like,
they're not like putting like now with TikTok on the cover.
Pretty Little Liars. Now with TikTok.
Now mentions TikTok at least once. Yeah.
But I think the fact that people like I've heard from so many people who were like, I had no idea this was happening. Even people like within publishing who were like, whoa. Because if people even within publishing aren't aware that this like happens, then like why would researchers, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I would love for there to be some studies. So if you are a researcher and you are listening to ICYMI,
as all of them are,
as all researchers in the whole world are, I would love for you, please look into this.
Yeah, no,
let's
we
research,
need more
Mama.
on this. Yeah, let's research, Mama. We need more on this. You mentioned they run it by the author, so I was gonna ask like how authors feel about this, because it sounds like the ones that you spoke to were pro, but I imagine if they didn't like it, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, from the conversations I had, whenever I asked that question, everyone was like, yeah, it's like the author, it's their voice, it's their characters, like they're the final say. David Levithan said that, you know, something that lends the project of updating these books like more legitimacy is the fact that like they do have the author right there. They can run everything by her. I think a really interesting case, and probably my favorite conversation I had around modernization, but it didn't make it into the piece, so I really want to talk about
Exclusive. This is just as juicy as the email about Lindy West, or maybe a close second. All right, go.
But a close second, yeah, for sure. Okay, so ICYMI exclusive. Yeah. So I spoke to this Canadian author. Her name is Edith Kabuya, and she is a screenwriter and a YA novelist, and she's written these two YA series. The first one is called Les Maudits. It's like a romantasy series, and the second is called Victoire Divine.
Okay, doing some real French drops right now. Yeah,
did it just for you, girl. And so when I spoke with her, in March, and she was actually in the process of having to decide whether she wanted to make these interior updates to the first book in Les Maudits. And basically, in that book, she had made a reference to a VHS. When it came out, VHSs, like, I think it came out in 2012. Like, people weren't really using VHS anymore, but she put it in as like kind of like a plot thing, like, oh, she goes to the video store and she like picks up a like VHS cassette, whatever. And she was like, I don't think it would change the plot to remove it. It was like a plot gimmick. I'm really considering it. But she was so torn.
Yeah.
She was like, I also feel like it is a part of history and like that feels sacred to me and like I don't know. But then again, and so they were reprinting Les Musées, I think, as a collector's edition. And so she was really, really torn, and we were talking through that. And one of the reasons she thought she was like kind of inclined to maybe do this was, so she often does like these like school visits. And when she does class visits for Victoire Divine, in Victoire Divine, there is I
just need to say, every time Angelina says a French word, she gets this little smile that she's fighting because she knows she's like stunting.
This is a video podcast.
Well, you know, this is...
I'm going to do the gym thing. Do you think I'm stunting?
Okay, I just need people to know. Those who are audio only, I just need you to know I'm being stunted on. Okay, continue.
Well, yeah. So in Victoire Divine, characters give it happens at a boarding school, and characters give their teachers like nicknames. And the main character's favorite teacher, according to her, looks like Enrique Iglesias.
Great.
And so that's what she calls him, and she's like clearly got a crush on him. And Kaguya told me that when she does these school visits, teachers are like, my students do not know who that is. And so every time we read these books, they ask, and I show them a picture of him, and they're like, that guy's so old. Like, that's so weird that a teenager is crushing on him. And so, like, the author was like, yeah, I guess it is. Like, should I change it to, like, Bad Bunny?
Right. I was going to say the band Doja Cat.
The band Doja Cat, yeah. And so because of that feedback she got, it was something that she was considering. But, you know, I think talking to her was really helpful because a lot of the conversations that I had were, you know, authors of more, like, older series, authors who have, like a pretty large, like, legacy and feels like these like broader projects, whereas this is really someone kind of thinking about what it means to actually make that change like right now, and who has received feedback from readers.
Well, yeah, because I feel like I would imagine there's more agonizing over it but we only see the people who are okay with it.
Yeah.
I know commenters had lots of thoughts about this, and I know you've brought some choice ones in, and so I'd love to hear so there was commenters, and then like I think you said Blue Sky discourse.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So how did this land? What were people thinking when they read this?
So people were very angry. Crucially, not at me.
Yeah, and bless up, because that is not always the case.
A great place to be. And so a lot of the comments on Blue Sky were like, thanks, I hate it.
Yeah.
My favorite one was 3 paragraphs in and I'm sharpening my pitchfork. I've been like laughing about that since I read it. So whoever you are, thank you for making me laugh. But then there were like a lot of comments on the New York Times article where people would kind of make jokes like, I think my favorite is, I can't wait for the version of Anne of Green Gables where Anne hits Gilbert over the head with her iPad.
Yep. Like an iPad baby. Yeah.
And then, you know, there is one that was like, next up, Mr. Darcy swipes right to find Elizabeth.
Yeah. And that fan fiction has been written. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sure. There was this really long comment about like Stuart Little that I thought was so funny. There were just like there was a lot of really interesting discourse. A lot of people who were like, who had so much like insight and had so many like strong reactions and who were really articulate, and then there were like really funny jokes.
Sorry, the idea that someone would be reading Stuart Little, a mouse that talks. And then they're like, there's a reference to, I don't know, like a CD in it. And they're like, wait, that's crazy. I don't know what a CD, a talking mouse is next to them, but they're like, I don't know what this is if it's not on Spotify. Whatever. My next question is,
tell me,
how do we feel about this? I think I've made it pretty clear. But my feelings are in 2 parts.
Tell me.
As readers, I do think that this shows, in the case of things like we're just going to swap out TikTok or the band Billie Eilish. It feels like it is underestimating and kind of patronizing to younger readers to think that they can't understand the concept of something being set in the past and that it's not relevant now. And like that they're like a sim when you put something in the way and they're like, I can't get past this. Like that's not going to happen. And like crucially, when I think about being taught about how to read text, there is like the first thing they tell you to be is like identify the setting. Like you are taught from a very early age to be like, these clues tell me it is set at this time. The thing where I feel like this gets tricky is if you're updating references, but then other norms or just other types of context that is set in the past then conflicts with there suddenly being TikTok. I just think like it's the references don't come out of a vacuum. Like if something is set in the past, like Anne of Green Gables, like they didn't invent iPads yet. I know it was a joke one, but it's like there are going to be other things about the story being set in this time that might contradict the sort of passing reference to TikTok. So there's that as readers, but then sort of as a writer,
tell me,
which you are also clearly. So I do understand because the example you use in your piece is like if you're referencing Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and then they break up, that immediately becomes like something that can take people out of the book. And so like I'm not too hard pressed about that, but this idea of that when you're writing now, it needs to be time agnostic and it needs to be like this flattening where it's like instead of putting in the cassette, they just play the song. I get why, but those two sentences, like one is inherently less interesting just by nature of having zero details. And I mean, as they say, the devil is in the details. But also like that's what jokes are funnier when they're specific, and like weirdly like something like a feeling or emotion resonates more when you're likened to a specific. I just think this idea of like let's be as vague as possible. The idea of a novel without like a sense of time or place, like that in and of itself is like a dystopian thing someone would write rather than this being like the norm because someone in 20 years, by the way, someone in 20 years won't know what TikTok is and we'll have to do it again. And so that is what I present to you. I'm curious if your opinion on this, it sounds like it did shift a little bit when you were doing the like sort of interviewing process.
Yeah, it did because I think I just had an initial real strong, I think I was like Kate at the beginning. Now I'm evolved.
Oh, you mean right? Yeah.
Oh, you mean correct?
Yeah.
And no, I agree with everything you just said. And I think broadly the arguments that I heard against modernization, I think are more compelling to me than the ones for. Like gun to my head, if I was like all or nothing, like I'm like no, like I don't think I would touch anything. Yeah, but it only shifted really in the sense that like there were these kind of specific cases within that second category that I thought, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But to your point about things being less interesting, like yeah, as a reader, I also think that the sentence like put the tape in the cassette player is a much more interesting sentence than like tell her your song and she'll play it. Like it adds so much texture. And one of the scholars that and also I do agree with you also about it feels really condescending. I think that was probably my first thought. There's so much that so many decisions people are making and so many things that people are saying about young readers, but like all of this is coming from like these are people who have assumptions. These are gatekeepers. Yeah. The people who have assumptions about young readers. And I think that's really important to consider here. But one of the scholars that I spoke to, actually, when I brought up the idea of something being time agnostic, her name is Micah Phillips. She was like, I don't even think that like anything can be time agnostic because any text, even like, so she studies like a lot of like YA fantasy stuff, and particularly Tamora Pierce, if I'm remembering correctly. And even a book that's not set in like that's not like in a contemporary setting or whatever, or not in like this world, is going to have markers of the time it was produced, and that will look like how are they treating like trans characters.
Yeah.
Does the trans character die at the end?
Right.
Do the gay people die at the end? Like, if
not on Pride, Angelina.
No, happy Pride.
Yeah.
Like, if so, like, that is kind of like, there were kind of like social norms and certain times that like you had to have those things happen. You had to have these kinds of bad things happen. Like, how are characters, like, how are racialized characters, like, even like what's the like actual plot there, you know? And so there is no actual way to do that. And I do think that the idea of trying to even like neutralize things instead of like replacing the language, just like kind of making it so that you don't have to keep replacing it in the future. All the scholars I spoke to for this were like, you can't assume you can't kind of like decide all readers are going to react this way. Like, readers are all going to like engage with text really differently, and they've both taught classes about these things. They've both taught like high school students, and so they're like, from our experience and also our research, both Jennifer Bueller and Leah Phillips were very much just like, this is like, you are very much like underestimating readers. You are definitely like saying like, we don't think you can handle this. We don't think you can like look this up. We don't think that like, we don't like trust you to like do the same things that like we did when we were younger. Another scholar spoke to, Jennifer Bueller, was like, I think it's anti-art. I think that if you're thinking about children's literature as like art, and like you're thinking like, how do we make the best art for young readers? Like, by stripping the specificity, you're taking away the literariness. You're making it so bland. You're making it so... Yeah, and so she was like, I think that the people who are doing this, you know, as much as like they do want readers to like they do want kids to read, et cetera, she was very much just like, it feels like a real kind of like, they're like they're catering to the marketplace. It feels like someone's like it feels like cross commercialism that's like existing like in tension with the aim of making art. And I thought, you know, that also didn't really isn't something that I was able to bring into my piece, but I thought that was really, really interesting, because like, I do think this is art. I do think a lot of those books are like really important art, and like, if you're thinking about it that way, then I would never touch that. And I think the possible solution here is like the same solution people have thought of for that first category when it comes to like sensitivity reading. I think the idea that you could have maybe a disclaimer.
I was going to say like a footnote.
Yes.
Like of being like, you know,
this
like,
is what this is.
Right. Like if you're reading the Judy Blume and it's referencing to the period bell and it's just like big
Fun
asterisk.
fact.
Fun fact. This doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I think that would probably be my preferred kind of way through this, if that was maybe more the norm when like updating and like repackaging books.
And I'm picturing how the Pretty Little Liars one would do it, or with asterisks over fear factor. In this show, people ate bugs.
They rebooted it.
Wow. See, so now it's
I know.
Now they have to go back, switch fear factor back in because it's relevant again, and then the remaining bugs the eating bugs remains the same. Like, that is like timeless apparently.